Let's be honest, people, the N64 Classic is pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point in time. We've done other videos on the N64 Classic, such as talking about a patent that pretty much confirmed that the N64 Classic was in development, which we will talk about a little later in the video. But from a business standpoint, it would make sense for Nintendo to introduce this. Looking at the success of the NES and the SNES Classic, I think it sold exponentially well. I think they sold better than Nintendo even anticipated they would, and it sort of makes sense. It's an easy way for people to get back into gaming. Maybe people who grew up with the NES or the Super Nintendo who just fell out of love with gaming. Now you can have this impulse buy system that plays all these SNES or NES games on your HD television with a simple plug and play mechanic. And then of course Sony has come along and announced the PlayStation Classic, which is a PS1 Mini with 20 built-in games that we were releasing in December. And once again, this mania for these classic systems, these simple plug and play solutions, is growing once again. But today it looks like some pictures of the N64 Classic have potentially been revealed. A website called Nintendo Soup got these pictures sent to them and they put them up on their website, and honestly, looking at these pictures, I could say it is very convincing. So what are these pictures about? What do these pictures sort of showcase, and what does it say about the status of the N64 Classic? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's get into these leaked photos of the N64 Classic.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my god, it's Stevie Richards! So first things first, let's get into this point about how we get to the conclusion of an N64 Classic even being in development. Of course, looking at the NES Classic, that was released 2 years ago and was a huge success for Nintendo. And then the next year, they released the SNES Classic. So I think a lot of people were expecting an N64 Classic in 2018, but Nintendo hasn't really said anything about it. And when you look at how Nintendo's history has gone with the Nintendo Switch as far as the lack of a virtual console, it looks like they sort of view the classic systems as a way to play your virtual console style games that were developed for these old systems and allow you to play them on your HD television. But I think the PlayStation Classic sort of threw a bit of a monkey wrench in this situation. It was nothing that we had heard about. It was nothing that was really being speculated on. And then PlayStation comes out and says, hey, we're doing a PS1 Classic, 20 games, 2 controllers, $100. And people started talking about the classic systems again. So I feel almost like Nintendo was sort of caught off guard by that, because obviously the classic systems is something that they have been doing, and they have been doing very, very successfully. Then of course we had this patent that was finally approved for an N64 like controller that basically pretty much says to me the N64 Classic has been in development, because it has the same sort of styling as you saw on the NES and the SNES Classic as far as the graphics are concerned for these systems. So it's pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point in time that the N64 Classic is probably in development, especially when you look at the fact that something like the NES Classic, if you hack it, you can actually play N64 games on this system. So as far as the hardware is concerned and having to do different things with the hardware, you really don't. The NES and the SNES Classic are running on the same hardware. And considering that both of those systems support N64 if you hack it properly, then you pretty much have the system already done. You just have to create the molding for the system and of course the controllers for the system. But like I said, a website called nintendosoup.com, which is a website that I frequent pretty often, and they're pretty spot on most of the time. I've never had any issues with them, reporting on fake sort of stuff, posted these pictures that they allegedly got that are of the N64 Classic. They have it classified as a rumor. Of course, this is just a rumor. We can't confirm any of this stuff, but just looking at these pictures, I don't know, man. I think it looks pretty spot on. So the first picture I want to put up shows a picture of the N64 Classic, pretty much close up. You can see the reset button. It has the memory expansion slot on there and 4 controller ports, and then of course the N64 logo on it. It definitely is a much smaller looking system than compared to a standard N64, and you might be saying to yourself, well, why would they have the memory expansion port on that? Obviously you're not going to have to put a memory expansion in there, so what would be the point of that? But you really just have to look at the styling of the SNES Classic to sort of see where they would be going with that, because it's pretty much a one-to-one replication of the Super Nintendo. You have a reset button, you have a power button, and of course you have the eject button. Now the eject button of course does absolutely nothing. You can sit here and press it all day, but it also has a controller or a cartridge slot as well. And then of course on the the front of the system, you have where you plug in your controllers for the system. And looking at it, it has the same sort of ports that an SNES has. So one thing that Nintendo does with these systems is they try to make them an accurate replication of what you are seeing with the original system. So I don't feel like that's outside the realm of possibility as to something they would do as far as putting an expansion pack on there. The second picture showcases the controller ports for the N64 Classic, and just looking at it, you can see it is exactly the same as the SNES Classic, even down to the little gray thing that's right here on that. In the picture, you can see the gray thing there, and the same sort of controllers that you would input on the N64 Classic. Now, what's cool about the SNES Classic is when you hack it, you can use a Wii controller like this that plugs into the system, because that uses the same sort of thing. And that's the exact same thing that you are seeing in these pictures for the N64 Classic, right down pretty much to the styling of the end dongle for the N64 Classic. So this controller works on a Super Nintendo Classic. It's actually what I use on my Super Nintendo Classic, and the fact that it has joysticks allows you to play things like N64 games on there. So once again, the styling is pretty much exactly what we are seeing with the Super Nintendo Classic. Like I said, it has that same sort of gray strip, the same sort of controller imports, so it's pretty much what I would expect the N64 Classic to be. Now, the final picture has the underside of the N64 Classic, and you can see that it is made in China, support.nintendo.com. It's the exact same thing as the bottom of an SNES Classic. The same sort of styling, the same sort of branding, and the same sort of trademarks, along with the made in China right underneath the support.nintendo.com. Now, honestly, this could just be a fake. And of course, you have to take that into consideration, that maybe this is just an elaborate scheme, an elaborate hoax. We've seen tons of hoaxes. Remember the Nintendo Switch, the Stewie Griffin controller? Everyone was convinced that the Nintendo NX at the time was going to have this stupid controller. But honestly, I feel like these are probably pretty legit when you look at the grand scheme of things. When you look at the styling of the system, the memory expansion slot, when you look at the way the controllers go into the system with that same sort of gray tongue to take it out, and when you look at the underbelly of the system and it has that same sort of branding and that same sort of trademarks on there and the same sort of design that the SNES Classic has, I definitely think this is a real system. It's great to see that this system has 4 controller ports on it as well. Now, as far as what games to be expected are on this system, I honestly think you're going to see the standards. You know, you're going to see your Super Mario 64. You're going to see The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. You're going to see Majora's Mask on there. Mario Kart 64. Those are all games that I expect to see on there. A lot of people are wondering if Rare games will be on there. I honestly feel like the working relationship that Nintendo and Rare have right now, with as far as the cross-play stuff and working together, I think they can cut a deal to get Rare games on this thing. You know, you're not going to see GoldenEye just because GoldenEye has so much licensing and trademarking going on. You would have to get the movie license. You would have to get the actors, because the actors are in the game. You know, Pierce Brosnan is in the game. You'd have to do so much stuff and jump through so many loopholes in order to get that GoldenEye license. I don't think GoldenEye will be on there, but I do think Perfect Dark will be on there as sort of the, you know, here you go, sorry we couldn't get GoldenEye, but here's Perfect Dark. And a lot of people like Perfect Dark more than GoldenEye. You'll still have that 4-player local multiplayer co-op, which the games like GoldenEye and of course Mario Kart and Perfect Dark were known for. So honestly, I think this is a pretty convincing system, and I definitely think that whenever we get the next Nintendo Direct, which has been rumored for November, that's what I've been hearing about this Nintendo Direct, I think you're going to see this. Do I think it'll come out in 2018? I don't think so anymore. I think if this was a 2018, we would have already heard about this from Nintendo during the last Nintendo Direct. But could this be a springtime release for Nintendo and the N64 Classic? I definitely think so. There's been rumors that a November Nintendo Direct will be coming up to sort of, you know, flesh out the springtime, as there's a lot of stuff coming to the Switch in the springtime that needs to be talked about. Games like Daemon X Machina, and of course, you know, when's Animal Crossing coming, things like that. So I definitely foresee this being in the next Nintendo Direct, and I definitely foresee this being a springtime release for Nintendo. Nintendo's been doing a lot of stuff in the spring lately. We saw it in 2018 and 2017, launching the Nintendo Switch and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, both in March of 2017. You had games like Kirby, Donkey Kong, Hyrule Warriors come out in the spring of 2018. So I definitely think Nintendo is ramping ramping up for a big spring 2019, and something like an N64 Classic will definitely put asses in the seats and put people's money in their wallets and in their Nintendo's pockets. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of these pictures. Are you convinced? Do you think that these are legitimate pictures of the N64 Classic that have been leaked? And once again, this is coming to us from nintendosoup.com. I will have a link in the description box down below if you want to see their little write-up on it and see the pictures in more detail and things like that. But I'm definitely pretty convinced by this, especially when you look at the way the controller ports are. I'm definitely pretty convinced that this is a legitimate leak, and the N64 Classic could be coming sooner than later. So let me know what you think about everything in the comments section down below. And as always, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. Make sure you enter the $100 eShop gift card giveaway that I'm doing right now. There will be a pinned comment in the comment section down below. Very easy to enter. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. I gotta go back to playing Black Ops 4. It's really freaking good. Later.